Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Congressman Mark Alford.
Well, thank you very much. I could use that a lot lately. I appreciate that. Good to see everyone, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the new 4th Congressional District of the great state of Missouri. A district where we are working alongside our great Governor Mike Kehoe to turn the Show Me State into the Grow Me State. And where we are right now, Millbank Manufacturing is part of that endeavor, and it's so good to be here with the workers behind us, the management, the owners. What a great day to be an American. You know, Kansas City has a very long history of manufacturing and business. Not too far from where we stand, just down the river a bit, on the banks of the Missouri River in 1821, a bold young Frenchman named Francois Chouteau, an agent for the American Fur Trading Company, built the first permanent settlement here, trading goods for beaver pelts, destined to become stylish hats for gentlemen back east and in Europe. Those humble trading posts were more than commerce. They were the spark of American enterprise in the heartland. And from furs and frontier grit, Kansas City grew. By the dawn of the 20th century, this city had grown into a true manufacturing powerhouse. Henry Ford chose Kansas City for its very first assembly plant of the Model T outside of Detroit. Opening in 1911, Model Ts rolled off the lines by the hundreds each day, putting Americans on wheels and building the middle class in America. And of course, today, the best-selling truck in America is built just down the road in Clay Como, the Ford F-150. General Motors followed Ford, firing up the Leeds plant in 1929 and creating thousands of good-paying jobs. During wartime, Kansas City made cars and aircraft, rail equipment, and much more. But then came the painful decades of decline. Bad trade deals, offshoring, and Democrat leaders who forgot that a strong nation must make things. Factories fell silent. Families watched their futures shipped overseas, communities hollowed out. But folks, I'm here to tell you today that era is ending. Today, under President Donald J. Trump, manufacturing is roaring back to the United States of America. Through bold tariffs that level the playing field, the recently passed Working Families tax cuts that rewards companies like this one who build here, and a fierce commitment to fair trade, American manufacturing and jobs are coming back home. Factories are reopening. Wages are rising. Pride in America and things that are made in the good old United States of America are surging across the heartland. President Trump understands what Ronald Reagan knew so well, that America's greatness flows from American workers, American factories, and American ingenuity. We are simply reclaiming our destiny as the world's greatest manufacturing superpower. And right here in Kansas City, the resurgence is on full display with Millbank Manufacturing, a family-owned business founded right here almost 100 years ago in 1927. For nearly 100 years, Millbank has been crafting high-quality electrical metering equipment, enclosures, powering homes, businesses, and communities all over our great nation, and all made by hands right here in the Midwest and not communist China. You see, Millbank stayed true when others left. They innovated, they hired locally, they kept the American spirit alive. Vice President Vance, thank you for being here today. Your visit here today honors exactly what we celebrate. Companies that choose to build here, choose to invest here, and choose to win here in America. And Millbank isn't just making products, they're making a difference, strengthening our energy infrastructure and proving that the heartland still leads. With President Trump and you, Vice President Vance, leading the charge, we are turning the page to a new golden chapter of America. So today, I'm calling on all Americans to reject the decline of the past and embrace our destiny of manufacturing greatness. Let us all roll up our sleeves, fire up the machines, and build an America that every family can thrive, because we make things great again here in America. You see, I believe that the best days for Kansas City and America are still ahead of us. In closing, Mr. Vice President, thanks again for coming to Kansas City. I want to continue our work with you and the administration to make America great again. But my desire goes much deeper than that. Mr. Vice President, I want to work with you to help make Americans great again. Sadly, I think America is more divided than we have been since the Civil War. And Jesus said in Matthew 12:25, "A house divided against itself will not stand." You know, some 40 years ago, Ronald Reagan had the remedy when he spoke words to this effect: "The time has come for us to reassert our trust in God. The time has come for us to realize that we need Him more than He needs us. The time has come to turn to God for the healing of America." We need healing. As we approach the 250th anniversary of this glorious nation, let each one of us here today renew our faith in God Almighty, for it's only through His providence and His protection that we even exist as a nation. So may God bless you all here today. God bless Milbank. God bless the Vice President. God bless our great Governor Kehoe, Missouri, the new 4th Congressional District. And God bless America. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Congressman Jason.
Good afternoon, Kansas City. Are we ready for the Vice President of the United States? You know, it is a complete honor and privilege to have the Vice President right here in the Show Me State. We know that the Vice President, we also know the President of the United States, does not view us as flyover country. They view us as the heart of America. This is not the first time that the Vice President has been here, and it will not be the last. So let's make sure that whenever he comes out here, we blow the roof off this building, right? Will you do that? You know, I look out and I see some familiar faces, but a lot of you are like, who's this guy standing up here? Because I am a Missouri congressman. I just happen to be from the other end of the state. If you refer to the Boot Hill of Missouri, the Ozarks, that's where I come from. And we're... Okay, that's good. That's really good. So apparently you haven't been to the Ozarks. But I will say that being in this factory, when I was walking back there, it made me think of my mom. I grew up in a very middle-class, working-class family. My dad was an auto mechanic and a minister. My mother was a factory worker at Briggs & Stratton putting together lawnmower engines. And to know that we're here fighting for the values of the working class is so amazing. You know, I also serve as chairman chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee. I believe it's the best committee in Congress. It is the oldest committee, but it's in charge of all tax, all trade, healthcare, Social Security, and most welfare programs. So things that we all care about, right? So I have a question. How many of you in here work overtime? Yeah. How many of you that work overtime are also billionaires? I'm still looking for that billionaire that works overtime or gets tipped employees. When you hear the other side in Washington say that the one big beautiful bill, which I wrote, was a tax cut for the wealthy and the elites, they don't work overtime. They're not tipped employees. Apparently, they're not on Social Security. These are all things that we were able to deliver in the one big beautiful bill. I'll tell you, working with President Trump has been absolutely amazing. During the process of writing the big beautiful bill, I bet he called me almost every day with tax ideas or things we needed to talk about. In fact, before we released the bill text, 3 days before, I sat in the Oval Office for more than 2 hours with him and his chief of staff, Susie Wiles, to go through every one of the 103 different tax provisions. And the president was asking every little detail you could possibly imagine because he wanted to make sure that we were delivering for the promises that he made campaigning to become president, the 47th president of the United States. He crisscrossed across this nation. I brought the Ways and Means Committee across this nation. We went to a factory in Peachtree City, Georgia, and held a committee hearing to hear directly from factory workers, small business owners, and working moms of the issues that they're facing in today's society. And that is what wrote the one big beautiful bill. It wasn't lobbyists in Washington, D.C. It was each and every one of you. That is a change. That is a change in Washington, and it's because it's a change in leadership. And we are so blessed to have President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance helping lead this organization, lead this country. Trade is another thing that we're very focused in within the Ways and Means Committee. And I'll tell you, the president talks to me more about trade policy than he does tax policy. It's because he wants to make sure that American manufacturers and American workers are treated fairly across the world. For far too long, prior administrations did nothing to protect the American worker. And the president's used the power and leverage of trade to bring companies to the table. When you hear the president say that some of our greatest allies, like the European Union, don't treat us so well when it comes to trade policies, let me give you a couple examples. I'm a farmer in southeast Missouri, so I can relate to cows and chickens and hogs a little bit better than some things. But if you look at the European Union and you look at the country of Honduras, Honduras has 10 million people, and they purchase more pork from the United States than the entire European Union combined. If you look at the country of Angola, a poor African nation, they purchase more chicken from the United States than the entire European Union combined. And why is that? It's because they have these non-tariff barriers that don't even allow U.S. pork and chicken on their shelves in the European Union. President Trump was not happy with that, and he is stopping that from happening. This is what you do when you have a leader that's engaged in trade policy, making sure American farmers, small businesses, and manufacturers and workers are treated fairly. If we are treated fairly on the world stage, we will always win. And with Donald Trump, we're not going to lose. So I want to say thank you for the opportunity to be here, but also I ask of you once again that whenever the vice president is announced, please give him the strongest Missouri welcome. Will you do that for me? I'm going to be listening in the back, and I'm going to count each and every one of you, because when I get on that plane to fly back to D.C. with the vice president, I'm going to tell him, you've never met a crowd like the folks in Missouri. Why? Because we are the best. We're the show me state. Let's do it. Thank you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Governor Mike Kehoe.
Well, this is awesome. What a crowd on short notice. Thank you so much for being here to welcome the Vice President. I met him when he got in at the airport. He's excited to be here, and I think you're going to see a very energized Vice President, as you always see. So good to see so many elected officials with us here. I see House, Senate members. I see Denny Hoskins here, Vivek Malik here. Thank you for your service to the state. It's great to serve with these guys. Scott Fitzpatrick, he's the auditor, so we don't tell him much in case he comes and audits the governor's office. Listen, it's great to be here. Great to be in Kansas City. Thank you for welcoming Congressman Smith to God's country, whoever did that. That was pretty good. Whenever you're in Congressional 8 with Jason Smith, he always welcomes people to God country. Of course, my friend Mark Alford, longtime Kansas City, and you guys know him. He's doing a great job in Congress. We have an unbelievable congressional team that's really representing what I call Missouri's values. Mark pointed out we now have the Missouri First map that gives us a chance at 7. I told the Vice President when he got off the plane, he thanked me for that, and I said, you know, when the President called and talked to me about that, one thing he did say is, my money's on you, Mike. And when the President says that and hangs up the phone, you just say, oh my gosh, now what happens? But thank you for being here, and thank you for supporting good, conservative, Christian family policy agendas and for supporting manufacturing. Many people know my story. I came from inner city St. Louis, the youngest of a single mother who raised 6 kids by herself and worked 3 jobs. And I went on through working, literally sweeping floors in a car dealership, to starting a manufacturing business in Missouri. So when people talk to me about manufacturing, I've been there, not to this level. This company's about to turn 100 years old. How about a big round of applause for the Milbanks? But our manufacturing business went from 28 people, the most important jobs in a little town called Osage County, Lynn, Missouri, to now 145 people that work there, and the 3rd largest emergency vehicle manufacturer in the country. That's what can happen when you give the Americans the proper tools to keep government out of their way, let the free market work, and bring American manufacturing right back here to Missouri. President Trump and Vice President Vance understand that vision. They understand that it's companies like Milbank, it's companies like Osage Industries, my old business, that really give opportunities for families. Somebody like me who came from nothing, from Jason Smith, who came from nothing, whose mother was putting together those engines at that factory floor in Salem, Missouri. That's the opportunities you get. An opportunity for families to survive and keep the capital right here in our country. When I met with a president in the Oval Office several months ago, he asked me, I'm a Ford dealer by trade, for those, that's first on race day, Glenn Kochmeyer, in case you didn't know that. He said, Mike, why is the F-150 sell so good? And I said, well, Mr. President, because it's built in Clay County, Missouri. That's why. He said, really, I've always liked the F-450 because it's 45. I said, well, we'll figure that out. We'll put an F-450 on the side of the F-150 any day of the week. But this is what it's about. Manufacturing here, support here, understanding the values that the President and Vice President have, and the people that they're trying to get to work with them in D.C., what it will take to move this country forward. It's the opportunity that I received. It's the opportunity that many people in this room have received. Those are the opportunities we want for our country. We just want people to be able to work hard, provide for their families, and we know how to do it in America better than anybody else, period. And you're going to see continued reinvestment in Missouri and in continued reinvestment in America. And we're grateful that the Vice President would come here today to recognize how good Missouri workers are, how good Kansas City area workers are, because they know here in the Midwest, we do it the best. This is the heartland. We're the heartland because we have the Show Me State and because we are the people with the most heart right here in Kansas City who build the best products to get shipped globally around the world. Most of all, I can tell you that what I talked to the Vice President about early this morning and what I tell the President all the time, what they need are your prayers. It is the most humbling thing for me when Claudia and I travel the state to go up to people we've never met before and say, we're praying for you. That's the thing that brings this country back to the values we were founded on. That's what our founding fathers wanted to be, as a land of faith people, a land of family people, and a land of people who know how to work hard and produce for their family, and that's what you're standing in the middle of, and that's why we're grateful to be here today. So, as Jason Smith said, when Vice President Vance walks out here, now he used the word blow up the roof. There's a lot of people around me, I wouldn't use that term. But I'd say we're going to raise the roof when the Vice President, we're going to raise the roof when the Vice President comes out. You dang right we're going to raise the roof. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for supporting these good conservative values that we know are the best things for our country, that really bring us back home to make sure we're the global leading manufacturer about anything you can produce. All happens here in the country and all happens right here in Kansas City, Missouri. Thank you so much for coming out and support. God bless each and every one of you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Senator Eric Schmitt.
City! God bless you guys. It's so great to be here today, especially at this great American manufacturer that's been in business for almost 100 years. It's very exciting. This company represents something that people in Washington forgot about a long time ago. A nation cannot survive if it stops making things. For decades, too many leaders in this country treated American manufacturing like it was dispensable and disposable. They said it was inevitable that our factories would close, inevitable that our jobs would go overseas, inevitable that communities across the Midwest would howl out while China got richer and America got weaker. Well, President Trump and Vice President Vance rejected that lie. And 15 months ago, the American people rejected it too, and they changed course, thank God. The American people stood up and said, enough. Enough of the chaos, enough of the decline, enough of a government that served only the interests of those everywhere else except its own citizens. The American people sent Donald Trump and Vice President Vance to the White House with a clear mission: to take this country back. And that's exactly what they're doing. Because 15 months ago, we didn't have a border. We had millions and millions and millions of illegal aliens pouring into this country. And today, the border is secure. Illegal crossings have collapsed. And for the first time in years, America's enforcing its own laws. Illegal aliens are no longer being welcomed here by the millions. They're being deported. Because a nation that cannot enforce its own laws and borders is not a nation at all. It's just a place. And we're done just being a place. This administration understood something else too. You cannot restore a nation if you don't restore the people who built it. The working men and women of this country, the working men and women that work hard here every single day. And that means restoring American industry. For too long, Washington measured the economy like it was just numbers on a spreadsheet. GDP, stock prices, corporate profits. Meanwhile, entire American towns were left behind. Factories closed, supply chains were moved overseas, middle-class jobs disappeared, and generations of skilled American workers were treated like collateral damage in somebody else's global experiment. There was nothing smart about making ourselves dependent on foreign nations for steel, machine tools, pharmaceuticals, semiconductors, and critical manufacturing. President Trump and Vice President Vance understand that a country that cannot manufacture the essentials of modern life is not truly independent. That's why this administration is bringing investment back to the United States of America. Taxes are down. Regulations are being ripped out. Energy production is surging again. And companies are investing trillions of dollars back into this country, into American workers, American factories, and American communities. That matters for Missouri. That matters right here in Kansas City. And it matters at companies like Milbank that still believe in building things right here in the United States of America. Because manufacturing isn't just an economic issue. It's a cultural issue. It's a national security issue. It's a civilizational issue. Nations that stop building eventually stop believing in themselves. But America is beginning to believe in itself again. And a huge reason for that is the leadership of Vice President J.D. Vance. J.D. and I came into the Senate together. He's become a very close friend and somebody that I trust. He's smart, he's tough, and knows what I know and what all of you know, that America isn't just some economic zone. America is a people. It's a nation. J.D. came to Washington with the same mission that I had, to fight for the forgotten men and women of this country. The people who built this country, the people who follow the rules, the people who worked hard, paid their taxes, raised their families, and watched the political class sell their country out from underneath them. J.D. never forgot those people because that's where he came from. And right now, he's leading one of the most important fights of this administration, rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse that's infected Washington for decades. For too long, your hard-earned tax dollars were treated like monopoly money. Billions sent overseas, billions handed to left-wing NGOs, billions spent subsidizing the very institutions working against the American people. Vice President Vance is shutting it down. I'm telling you, you've got a fighter in J.D. Vance. And let me tell you something else. We're just getting started. Because this moment is more than just about politics. It's about restoring a government that serves its own people again. A government that puts American workers first, American industry first, American families first. It's about restoring confidence in this country, confidence that America can still build, still create, still lead, still shape its own destiny. That's what this movement's all about. We're taking back control, we're going to rebuild this great country, and we're just getting started. Thank you, God bless Missouri, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you. All right.
United States, J.D. Vance.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you all. Thank you. What did they give this crowd to drink before they got here? Semper Fidelis, sir. It's great to be here in Kansas City. We're so thrilled. But before I get started, I got a few notes of appreciation. First of all, it is amazing to be in this great Millbank manufacturing facility. Do we love our American workers and the people who make our stuff? So I was talking to the owners beforehand, and they were telling me that COVID, you saw such a ramp up in business need and business use, and it reminds me that, you know, while a lot of us try to forget the craziness that was COVID 5-6 years ago, there were a lot of people who were sitting at home on a laptop doing absolutely nothing and collecting a paycheck. And there were a lot of people who had to come to work and build the things Americans need. They didn't get to sit at home and do nothing. You guys came to work, and we're proud of you for it, and we're grateful. So in addition, we have some of my favorite elected leaders in all of the United States here, and so I want to make sure that each of them get a proper shout out. First of all, I think that you all have maybe, in the great state of Missouri, the very best United States Senator. I'm not going to get in trouble for saying that, am I, Eric? And if you do not have the best senator in all the United States, you've got tied for the best senator with Dr. Roger Marshall. So let's give a shout out to Doc Marshall and to Eric Schmidt. But we're pretty close to where you would call home, right, Doc? Very close. Okay, good. We love Doc Marshall. We love Eric Schmidt. Eric is a better baseball player, but if you need health care, count on Doc Marshall, not Eric Schmidt. All right. We got Congressman Jason Smith. Where's Jason Smith? Good to see you, Jason. Congressman Mark Alford. Where's Mark at? Mark, raise your hand. Thank you. Good to see you, man. The great Governor Mike Kehoe. Where's Mike Kehoe? Governor, thank you. Now, when we had that great Supreme Court case that said a crazy thing like maybe we shouldn't discriminate against people based on race, right? Very common sense. Maybe we should build our congressional districts to represent people rather than representing racial groups. Mike Kehoe Mike Eho jumped into action and working with the great congressional leadership here in the state of Missouri, gave us a brand new Congressional District 5, which I believe we're sitting in right now. Is that right? Okay. And I also want to give a word of gratitude to Secretary of State Denny Hoskins. Where is Denny at? Denny, you here? There we go. Denny, that is a nice blazer, man. Eric knows, if you wore that blazer into the Oval Office, the President of the United States would take special note of you. I will tell you that the President, he will note if you're wearing anything other than a solid navy blue jacket. And I learned this the hard way, not just that, but he likes more conservative dress. I learned this the hard way last year because it's tradition for the Vice President to welcome the Irish Prime Minister every St. Patrick's Day. So we do this big thing at our house at the Naval Observatory, and then we do a meeting at the Oval Office. And I decided to wear my shamrock socks to welcome the Irish Prime Minister. And we're sitting down in front of God and everybody and probably 100 TV cameras on a live press conference, and the President starts his remarks, and then he looks over and says, "What is going on with those socks?" So I learned the hard way. Dress conservatively around the President of the United States. But thank you all for what you're doing. And here's some good news. Ladies and gentlemen, we are bringing the United States of America back, and it's starting right here in the great state of Missouri. Now, I want to talk about just a few of the things that we've been doing to try to rebuild the United States of America, because I'm 41 years old. And for my entire life, the story of my hometown, the story of great manufacturers like this one, is that they were shedding jobs instead of creating jobs, and that workers were suffering instead of thriving, and that we saw factories in our own hometowns and our own home states closing down instead of rebuilding and adding. And what Donald Trump has done in just 18 months with the support of the great congressional leadership that's here today is that we have made it great to build in the United States of America once again. We're investing in the United States of America once again, and we're investing in American workers. Now that is not an accident, my friends. It didn't happen through accident. It happened through the deliberate decisions of the President of the United States and some of these congressional leaders here today. You ask yourself, how is it that we shocked economists' expectations and we added 123,000 jobs just last month? How is it that we've seen the biggest growth in manufacturing employment last quarter that we have seen in this country since Donald J. Trump was president the first time? How is it that we've seen our construction workers and our manufacturers benefit from this great American economic recovery? And it's simple. We decided to put American businesses and, most importantly, American workers first for a change. We decided to fight for you instead of fight against you, which is what way too many leaders have been doing. And let me just give you some examples. Unfortunately, because this is a new congressional district, I do not have an incumbent Democrat where I can talk about all the terrible things they've been doing in Washington, D.C. We've got a new congressional district, and what that means is I can't talk about the fact that last year, when we passed the working families tax cuts that Jason Smith authored and these guys fought for, every single congressional Democrat, save, I believe, one, voted against it. When we decided to put more money in your pocket, every single congressional Democrat except one, a guy in Maine, voted against it. When we voted to reinvest in Missouri's manufacturing workers, every single congressional Democrat save one voted against it. Here's the simple fact. If you want congressional leadership that fights to lower your taxes, that fights to put more money in your pockets, and fights to protect your jobs, the only game in town is Donald J. Trump and congressional Republicans. We're fighting for you every single day. Now, that legislation provides the biggest tax cut for working class Missourians that we have ever seen in the history of the United States of America. And Jason, it wasn't easy, was it? It should have been. It should have been simple to get Democrats to vote for more money in your pockets. It should have been simple to get Democrats to vote for protecting rural health care. You know, we had $30 billion in that legislation to stop the closures that we saw under the Biden administration of all of these rural health care clinics. But instead of fighting for you, they decided to fight against you. And the simple reason is because the Democratic Party in Washington, D.C., I hate to say it, ladies and gentlemen, it is not the Democratic Party that my mama and papa belong to. It's not the Democratic Party that was patriotic and believed in supporting working people. It's the Democratic Party that has been given over, unfortunately, to a lot of crazy people. You can say that, I won't, man. Because while I believe I'm fundamentally, Eric Schmidt knows this, I'm fundamentally an optimist about the United States of America. I believe that we have dedicated and patriotic people, whether they've got a D next to their name, an R next to their name, or whether they're independent. But as much as the historical Democrat Party, and I'm sure a lot of Missouri Democrats love this country, congressional Democrats have lost their minds in Washington, D.C. Everything that we do, everything that we try to do to make our streets safer, to close down the border, to try to give more money in your pocket, every time we try to do something, the Democratic leadership in Washington fights us every step of the way. And you don't have to take my word for it. I'd ask you to go back, if you ever are confused about the priorities of congressional Democrats, I invite you, go back and watch the State of the Union address of just a few months ago. It feels like a long time ago. But the cool thing about the State of the Union being Vice President of the United States is I get the best seat in the House. Now, the downside of it is you get the best leg workout because for 2 hours it's stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down. But here's the thing. When we had some very simple things, some things that you would expect every American, whether they're a Democrat or Republican, to stand and cheer for, Democrats sat on their hands. When we had a 6-year-old girl, beautiful little girl, who had been wounded by an illegal alien criminal. She was there, we were celebrating her, she was so happy, this beautiful little girl, she was hugging her dad and proud to be in the United States Congress. And the president called her out, and what happened? Congressional Democrats sat on their hands. And when the President of the United States said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna just restate a simple principle. If you believe the purpose of the American government is to stand up for American citizens rather than illegal alien criminals, I'd like you to stand up and cheer. And what happened? Every single congressional Democrat sat on their hands. You got to ask yourself, what's wrong with a party that will not stand up and cheer for a 6-year-old little girl who's been wounded by an illegal alien criminal? What is wrong with a party that will not stand up and cheer for a closed border? What party will not stand up and cheer for the simple principle that me and Eric Schmidt and Doc Marshall and Jason Smith and everybody else, Mark, we stand and we ought to fight for you, not illegal alien criminals. That's a simple principle that everybody should agree with. But I sit there, I'm behind the President of the United States, and it's not just that they sit on their hands, it's as there's no courage and no leadership. Because when the President says, stand and cheer, if you believe the purpose of our government should be to fight for the American citizenry, I look over and all these Democrats get very uncomfortable. You know, they're shifting uncomfortably in their seats. And they're looking around and they're looking for approval from Nancy Pelosi to stand and cheer for a basic principle, or to stand and cheer for that innocent 6-year-old girl. And ladies and gentlemen, I think a very simple principle is that anybody who cannot stand for an innocent 6-year-old girl who survived a violent attack, anybody who cannot stand for you, for your rights and for your prosperity, we ought to send them the hell out of Washington, D.C. and send people who actually represent us. And that's what's going to happen. I don't know. Do we know who's running yet in this open congressional seat that we just created? Who is it? Taylor Burtz. Okay, Taylor Burtz, we wish you the best of luck. We got somebody, Mike Abibi. Mike, congratulations. We're rooting for any good Republican in this seat. But I don't know who the Democrat's going to be. We probably don't know who the Democrat's going to be. Who is it? Okay. I don't know who that is. But here's the thing. Here's the thing about this. That person, I guarantee you, I'm going to make a prediction. I'm going to play J.D. Vance the prophet. Coming up October, November, you're going to see television advertisements. And you're going to see radio advertisements. You're going to hear them. And what they're going to tell you is that this person who's running, he's not like all the other congressional Democrats in Washington, D.C. He actually cares about you. He's willing to work with President Trump and the Republicans to get things done. And I guarantee you, that person is going to run pretending that he fights for you, and in reality, he's going to get there and fight for Nancy Pelosi. Because that's what congressional Democrats do. That's what they have to do in order to get their campaign contributions and the support from the interest groups. They have to promise not to fight for you. They've got to promise to fall in line behind Nancy Pelosi. And that's why they sit on their hands. That's why they refuse to clap and cheer for the simple principle that your government ought to fight for you. And that's why we cannot let those people anywhere near congressional leadership in Washington, D.C. You know, at the State of the Union, the president gave me a very cool job. He decided to make me in charge of the fraud task force that we've been going after in Washington. And every day people ask me, they'll say, is that a hard job? And the President of the United States will say, you know, how are we doing finding fraud today? And I'll say, you know, honestly, fighting fraud in Washington, D.C., it's a little bit like fishing in a barrel with a nuclear weapon. It is the easiest thing to find. Every single day, my staff will bring me new reports of the ways that you're being defrauded. And there are all these, look, there's a simple principle that I have, which is if you are committing fraud against the American people, you ought to go to prison. If you are a public official and you're not fighting against fraud, you ought to have your money taken away because you should not be able to steal from all of you and give it to fraudsters. So, and the thing I've learned about fighting fraud is that it is the ultimate non-victimless crime. There are at least 2 victims every time a fraudster takes advantage of our public programs. Number 1, you are the victims. When you pay your taxes, you ought to expect that it's going to go to the people that the law says it's going to go to. That's number 1. But number 2, when you pay into a program, let's say you pay your taxes and you know it's going to go to the food stamp program to ensure that low-income children actually have the ability to eat. You expect that money to go to a child to keep that child from being hungry. You do not expect it to go to a Somali fraudster because Governor Tim Walz in Minnesota is not doing his job. But here's the thing, every single day we are finding fraudsters all over this country who are getting rich off of your generosity and are taking food from the mouths of poor children. And that is what must stop, and that is what we're stopping with the fraud task force. Just last week, we actually prosecuted a fraudster who was stealing people's check information, stealing their identity, and writing bad checks. And that person was from Detroit. You know where we prosecuted him? Right here in the Western District of Missouri. And that person's going to prison. Let me tell you a story about a teacher who went to an assisted living facility, a person who served children her entire life. She goes into an assisted living facility, and a fraudster manages to get a court to appoint him as her power of attorney. So this woman, over a lifetime of hard work and dedication, she saves $750,000. That's meant to go to her medical bills. That's meant to go to pay her assisted living bills. And this guy slowly, over time, steals from her, lives large off of her generosity, and she doesn't even realize it until one day she gets kicked out of her assisted living facility because a fraudster was paying himself instead of paying her bills. Ladies and gentlemen, this has happened thousands and thousands of times all over the United States of America. And for 4 years, you had a president and an administration who encouraged the fraudsters to take advantage of you. Well, now you've got a president and an administration who encourages those fraudsters to go to prison, which is exactly where they belong. When somebody steals $1.4 billion from the Medicaid program, that is theft from you, and that's theft from people who deserve to be able to go see a doctor. When people steal billions of dollars from the Medicare program, that is theft from you, and it's also theft from the people who use the Medicare program to pay their bills. When somebody steals money from a program that's meant to benefit autistic school children, that's theft from you, and it's also theft from those children who depend on those services. One of the things I love about our country is that we're a generous people. We look after one another. If we see a kid who's starving, we don't say, "You're on your own." We say, "We're going to help you out." But that American generosity of spirit depends on having leaders who take care of those kids and who protect your money. And what we had for 4 years was leaders who promoted the fraud. Ladies and gentlemen, now we have leaders who promote you, who fight for you, who fight for your tax dollars, and fight for the kids who need those programs. And ladies and gentlemen, the only way to do that is to send the fraudsters to prison, and that's where they belong. Now, I want to leave you with one final thought before we have to hit the road. I got to head back to Washington. As much as I'd like to stay for some Kansas City barbecue, duty calls. You know, the two places where I'd say they always say they have the best barbecue are Kansas City and Memphis, Tennessee. So who has the best barbecue, Kansas City or Memphis? All right. I'll tell that to our Tennessee friends, but I think you're a little biased. If I'm being honest, you're just a little biased. But here's the thought I want to leave you with. I think like a lot of you, I didn't grow up with a silver spoon. I didn't grow up with everything handed to me. I was raised by a mamaw and papaw. My papaw was a union steel worker for 40 years, and my mamaw was the person who took care of me when drug addiction made it hard for my own mom to take care of me herself. And one of the things that I always remember is that Mamaw would often struggle, and she would often try to, penny pinch, like a lot of people do. She would decide sometimes, this month I'm going to have to cut back on medications in order to afford groceries, or the next month she'd do the opposite. A lot of these debates, a lot of these conversations that people have to have when things get tight. And I remember as I was growing up in Middletown, Ohio, I'd read the newspaper, or I'd just drive down the street and I'd see another factory that employed one of my friend's dads was closing down. Instead of adding jobs, they were shedding jobs. And I remember thinking to myself, why is it like this? Why is it that we have leaders who allow our jobs to get shipped to Mexico and China? Why is it that we have leaders who don't fight for hardworking taxpayers like my grandmother, but fight for the people who are getting rich by defrauding the system? And I realized it was a simple question of political leadership. The reason why those people were not fighting for you, the reason why they were sending jobs overseas, the reason why China and Mexico were building while the United States was shrinking, it was a simple question of political leadership. You had people in Washington who weren't fighting for you. And what I aim to do, and what the President of the United States aims to do every single day, is to be a president who fights for you, who fights for your jobs, who fights for your tax dollars, who fights for your money, and fights for your safety. Now, I happen to believe that one of the things that really made America great, and that we got away from the last few years, is that whether you were rich or poor, you had public safety. We had security in our neighborhood. We didn't grow up with a lot of money. We didn't grow up with a lot of extra benefits, but you know what we had, because the police were empowered to do their job in my little town in southwestern Ohio, is that we had safety. I felt like I could walk down the street without getting mugged or robbed. That was a good thing. And what happened under the Biden administration is that we allowed, not rich people, because rich people can afford private security, we allowed normal Americans to feel less safe and less secure in their communities. We saw murder rates, rapes, violence, armed robberies at historic levels. And in just 18 months under Donald Trump's leadership, by empowering our local law enforcement and empowering the police officers who keep us safe, we have the murder rate at the lowest level in 127 years. But my friends, the thing that I realize is all these issues, they're policy issues that matter. Of course, we care about giving you more of your tax money back. Of course, we care about everybody, rich, poor, in the middle, being able to walk down their neighborhood streets in safety. We care about adding jobs rather than subtracting jobs. But all of these things are policy issues. They are symptoms of a deeper cause. And that cause is that Donald J. Trump loves this country. He loves the people who make this country great, and he wants you all to thrive. Here's the problem with today's Democratic Party in Washington, D.C. It's not just that they want higher taxes, though they do. It's not just that they voted against the working families tax cut, though they did. It's not just that they empowered the criminals, which is why we saw such high murder rates under Joe Biden's leadership. The problem is that they don't think that they fight for you. What makes them passionate, what really gets them fired up, listen to them talk. Do they get fired up about putting more money in your pocket? No. Do they get fired up about supporting our local law enforcement to keep you safe? No. What brings them to tears, what makes them angry, what makes them yell and scream and holler is illegal aliens. If you actually ask, you actually look, judge them not by what they say, but by what they do and their emotions, what they reveal to you is that they believe they exist on this earth. They believe their jobs exist in Washington, D.C., not to fight for you and for your jobs, but to fight for illegal immigrants and the fraudsters who get rich from the system. That is not a policy difference. That's a difference in who you represent and who you fight for. Now, here's what I'm never going to promise you. You know, just these four leaders who had to step away because they're going to fly back with me to Washington, D.C. They're going to disagree about policy issues. Even the four of them are not going to vote the right way or the wrong way on every single issue. They're going to have disagreements even among themselves. I'm not asking you to support congressional Republican leadership because you agree with everything Republicans do in Congress. I get frustrated with them from time to time. By the way, pass the SAVE Act. That's something they need to do. But even, I'm not going to tell you I'm right about everything, except maybe I am. But I'm not. You're going to disagree with me from time to time. Of course you are. You're going to disagree with the President of the United States from time to time. That is the nature of living in a society with as big and diverse a population as we have. So I'm not asking you to vote for Republicans because we're right about everything. I'm asking you to vote for Republicans because at least we know who we fight for. And we fight for you. And I'm asking you to vote against Democrats because they don't know who they fight for. Or if they do know, they're fighting for illegal aliens and they're fighting for fraudsters. You know, we've gotten no help from congressional Democrat leadership on this anti-fraud task force. And with the exception, we actually have, to their credit, a few of the blue states have been helpful in fighting against fraud. A few of the blue state governors and their leaders have been helpful. But by and large, most of the big city states, the big city mayors and the big state governors, they have fought tooth and nail against our anti-fraud efforts. You ask yourself, how do we get there? How do we get to a political party that promotes fraud and illegal immigration? And the simple fact is that this is not my grandparents' Democrat Party. Something has changed. Something is profoundly different about the modern leadership of today's Democrat Party. And so I'm not going to ask you to agree with us on every issue because that would be impossible. What I will ask you is if you want to make America great, if you want to protect your jobs and hopefully build jobs in this beautiful factory, if you want to make our streets even safer, if you want to rebuild the American dream for the next generation, vote against the crazy leadership in Washington, D.C. Vote against the congressional leadership that will stand up and say we care more about illegal aliens than we do American citizens, and vote for the leaders in Congress who have promised that they're going to fight for you. Because I'll tell you, as much as I sometimes am frustrated with what happens in Washington, D.C., the difference could not be more clear. There is one set of leaders who fight for you, that's the congressional Republicans, and there is one set of leaders who seems to relish fighting for illegal aliens over the people who built this country. So let me leave you with just one final thought. I remember, and I think a lot of you are probably like this, I remember driving through my hometown and thinking to myself, why is it that we struggle while other people seem to thrive? Why is it that if you try to work the system, you seem to make a lot of money, but if you work hard and play by the rules, the leadership seems to punish you? What I promise you every single day is that the President and the Vice President of the United States, the President and Vice President of this administration, we wake up trying to see this country through the eyes of a kid like me. We wake up trying to protect your job. We wake up trying to make your community safer. We wake up every single day recognizing that we have the coolest jobs anywhere in the world because this is the greatest country anywhere in the world. So what I'm going to tell you is because you come up and every day you work hard and play by the rules, we're going to fight for your tax dollars. Because you just want to raise your children in safety and security, we're going to fight for local law enforcement. Because you want to build great things at this beautiful factory, we're going to fight for great American manufacturers and the workers that they employ. Ladies and gentlemen, you make America great, and we will not stop fighting for you. God bless you, and thank you for having me.